one of the finest in the state. Unfortunately, he passed on. They developed early on, towards the end of the closure, a piping system which collected at that time all of the methane gas in collection wells, and through the Parker family in Clackamas County, that methane gas was marketed to Northwest Natural Gas. Most people don't know that. Most of the methane gas has been dissipated, but of course, because it is a landfill, that will be continued to be produced. The only incident of involving the Home Depot turned out to be a faulty alarm. It had nothing to do with actual methane gas leakage. I wouldn't know if the Home Depot ever shut down, because that is my toy store. And I'm there virtually every day, and I think my record on a Saturday or a Sunday is like 7 trips. So I've been there. There has been, of course, some settling, which is going to occur in any landfill. But the Home Depot was, of course, built on piping, on piling, and I understand that the proposal of this development would eliminate that. Any developer who has had any experience whatsoever with landfills, I'm sure, has the access to the engineering necessary to make that relatively risk-free. If you have any questions about that, I would suggest that someone talk to the Parker family, because they are on the hook. They've been on the hook, and they're still on the hook for any further future problems. They'd be on the hook first, and so there wouldn't be any further liability. Please consider this very carefully. One of the problems we've always had in Oregon City is that we have over a third of our property here in Oregon City that is not on the tax rolls, doesn't bring a dime in.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments.
Am I ready to go?
Yes.
My name is Jan Troxler, and I am a resident of Oregon City for 36 years. I'm very happy to say I have been a resident here. I'm here to ask the city to please reconsider letting the people here have a vote on the rivers. I'm concerned of how this could be a hardship on a lot of the citizens. Yes, I'm hearing that it could bring jobs in, and it would be construction workers. Then you would have people that would work at the mall. But in the long run, all I see is having to improve more of the roads. I can see more people coming in, which to me is crime. More people you have, the more crime there is. And then you're going to have to hire more fire and more police, so yes, you'll have more jobs there. But I'm extremely happy with how downtown Oregon City has improved, and it's building and thriving. And I fear that once this has been built, that it will take away from downtown. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gabrielle Chavez. I'm a resident of Oregon City and a homeowner. I'm in favor of jobs. I'm in favor of urban renewal. And I think I might even be in favor of spending public money without a vote, although I would like to have a vote. But I'm really glad to be here tonight in a public forum and learning what I've already learned, which is that site proposed for the rivers might be worth developing, and I'd like to ask what else we could put there, or what else we could do with $17 million that apparently we're able to borrow on the promise that the tax increment will pay us back. I'm thrilled to learn that our city is able to imagine putting this much public money into an urban renewal project, and I'm just wondering what we could do with that kind of money. Improve our downtown, We could look at the existing shopping center not far away and maybe be creative there. We could take that great developable site that we just heard about and really open it up to what else could go there that might produce jobs that really do offer a living wage to the students of Rocky and some of the rest of us, my own children and friends. So I just would like this Urban Renewal Commission to consider more widely what's possible, since it's in your boat and your hands and not in the citizens at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patty Eddy. I'm a resident of Oregon City, a homeowner, and a downtown business merchant. I'm a co-owner of Mi Familia restaurant, downtown Oregon City. And I'm here today to express my opposition to this project and to relate my reasons why. I do have a little fear of speaking in public, so I have some notes, so bear with me. I'll probably be reading some of these things, some of my thoughts. My family was extremely excited to assist in leading the way in an exciting transition of downtown Oregon City. We believe in a local, thriving downtown economy and a self-reliant, vibrant community. We renovated at our own expense a 100-year-old building without any financial handout from anybody, and at a great risk to my own financial well-being, simply because we believe in our project and we believe in our community. We wanted to give and get back. Shopping habits shape cities and they reflect cultures. It is shown that massive impersonal retail outlets result in low-paying jobs and large carbon footprints while displacing independent merchants. They change the character of the community from one of connecting on a human scale to one of impersonal business. Local merchants not only source many of their goods from local suppliers, they also purchase many local services, in turn getting back, keeping the money in the community. Examples are my local bank, my payroll, people that I use locally, accountants, even my hairdresser, or when I want to buy my staff for their party cupcakes from down the street. I'm concerned because when corporate retailers come in, they divert this economic flow into a single-track economy mind in which the wealth flows primarily out of the city. I'm concerned about the socioeconomic and environmental effects of such a production. I'm not opposed to development of this land, but I'm opposed to this type of development. And I believe as intelligent citizens we can come up with a much keener method of bringing in jobs. I know we all throw around the terms of sustainability, self-reliance, community-based projects, and are these just terms that we use loosely, or do we really believe in them? I, for one, believe in them, and I'm going to stand up today and ask that people here reflect on this themselves and ask yourself, what type of community do you really want to be a part of? What type of community do you really want to be a part of? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. May I have the next two speakers come up, please?
I am Dan Grogan, owner and president of Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor, located in the Oregon City Shopping Center. My wife, who is one of my partners, and my brother-in-law are also here. I want to express my sincere displeasure with the handling of the Rivers Project. It appears to be in the process of being bullied and shoved down our and the citizens' throats by an outside developer and a small portion of local government. And in a hurry, and why? I ask why. Are you really that excited about having a bunch of national big box retailers that take their money back to national headquarters, while at the same time putting decades-old businesses local companies out of business. Because that is what this will do, and that's period. That's what it will do. I read a document called The Rivers Questions from October 12, 2010. I ask you and the developer to slow down and answer every one of these questions and concerns. And I ask you, why wouldn't you? I ask, where is this pressure and rush through this process coming from? A strong-arming developer and unions, or national retailer chains that could give a rip about this city? I ask you today to slow down and consider all the questions and effects. If you go forward with this, and it uses tax dollars that our company has raised and paid into Oregon City, only to be used for a competitor and a single developer to receive tax breaks, then I will be asking that our hundreds of thousands of dollars be returned to our company and our 40 employees. I ask you to step back and consider what it takes to build a family business that employs 140 local citizens and has been around 36 years. I cannot stand by and allow this to happen. You have 30 to 40% vacancy rates in Oregon City Shopping Center, and you think this will help. Lastly, if this developer wants to open for business, then fine. Knock yourself out. But do it on your own dime, not mine or the good people of Oregon City. Second, lastly, 1,500 jobs. You got to be kidding me. Temporary, part-time, out of town. That's where you're signing up for. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Can I just ask one question?
Yes, please.
You mentioned questions from October 12, 2010. I was not on the commission at that time. Would you have those available? Because I have not
Yes, we
seen
can make
those.
them. We can make them available to you, no problem.
Staff can make those available.
And it was actually redated in 2011 also.
What was the date in 2011?
February 8th, I believe, 2011.
Okay. And are you going to also speak at the City Commission?
I'll speak wherever you want me to speak.
Okay. I'll reserve my other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just a normal person that used to live here in Oregon City, and I had to travel to find work. Now, this urban development would be a great opportunity, not for myself as being a union operator to help build that, but as well as my children to work in that same area, as they have not found jobs here either. So it's a win-lose situation for folks that do live in Oregon City. I myself had to move from Oregon City to Milwaukee to be closer for my children to go back for their jobs right now. I'd probably still be living here if something like this was around more. And I understand the older companies that did have their business here forever. We tried to get employment through them for my children, and of course go to school and just do a normal childhood thing to grow up and want to have their own things going. And it just hurt, to have no jobs here in Oregon City to really start it up with them. And pretty much it's not just for them as well, it's for me as well. I'm finding myself having to work out of state and long drives, long commutes to find work. And it'd be good to see something that's really close in the city, and not just to be close by to enhance Oregon City. Oregon City is an old, very old Oregon City. And that's one of the reasons why I appreciate this town and community. Great people that do live here and have businesses here. And it just creates more opportunities for children to grow up in a better life in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. And would you also state your name for the record, please?
Your name?
Your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Randy Poteet.
Thank you.
Next is Dave Prideaux and Shaw Spady.
I'm Dave Prideaux, live in Oregon City. I'm speaking because what's happening is not right. I feel it's not right. And there are a couple of angles to look at this, and I'd like to speak to one of them now and maybe the other at the commission meeting. The angle I'd like to speak of now is civility, and people have passions, people are upset, people are on opposite sides. This issue for years has divided this community, and I'm disappointed that there have been statements made that people have felt intimidated. I was not able to be at the last commission meeting, but I understand that a lot of people felt that because of the big crowd that came out and the cute stickers and so on, that there was a pressure, a group pressure on people to people smirking and chuckling under their breath at the few people who were opposed. But really tonight what I'd like to speak to is my fellow union brothers and sisters. I'm a card-carrying, dues-paying member of ATU, and I know that near and dear to our hearts as union members are jobs. But there are more considerations. We're also members of our communities. We're citizens. We're human beings. And I understand that there probably will be some good union-paying jobs if this goes through. I think that the number is far, far exaggerated. And so I would ask you as fellow union people to consider that there's a larger consideration here, the good of the city, the community, the taxpayers, and are the claims that are being made, holding up? Are they worth their salt? And I could talk for hours, but that's the gist of what I'd like to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Shaw Spady. I live in Oregon City. Been around a while, trying in spite of no listening.
The mic kind of.
Oh, shoot. Press the button.
Okay. So I would like to talk about the environment tonight, since it seems to be in the current world we're living in the last subject anyone discusses, and from my perspective the most primary and critical to continuing life on the planet. So I really have a question, and the question is, how prudent is it to take our current resources, economic, physical, social, mental resources, and place them into a further investment into consumption? Because I would like you to look at what exactly is it we're consuming. We're, yes, creating a flow back and forth of paper and charge cards and things, and we have grown our society, our current society, our current mindset, our current way of being, for the most part, has been formulated around buy, sell, consumption, world markets, blah, blah, blah. But I would just like to remind you that at the bottom of this is consumption means we're using up resources on a finite planet with ever-growing populations. No big surprise. And so putting our future energy and our thoughtfulness about what we have left right now into investing in further consumption, period, makes no sense to me. So I would just like you to consider a broader perspective of this conversation than jobs and dollars, because it's way bigger. Because once we run out of things to consume, jobs and dollars really won't matter. So my last story is one of my very favorites of all time, from growing up of a family that were Germans in Russia, and they literally lived off the land. And during the revolution in Russia, there were famines and those sorts of things, and those people wrote back to the few people who made it here, when I'm one of those lucky families. And one of the men wrote something about the Schmidt family, and we're all so sorry for them because they have used up all their seed and have nothing to plant for the coming year, and we fear they will starve. So my thought is plan a little bit out of the perspective into a different future.
Thank you.
Next is Christine Kozinski and Don Wright. And then would the following please come forward? Marna Moore, Alan Kieser, Rob Crocker, Mark McCarthy, Carmen McDonald, Nick Borowski, Campy Kehoe, and Patty Jarrett.
Christine Kozinski, unincorporated, Clackamas County. The will of the people is the only legitimate foundation of any government, and to protect its free expression should be our first object. Thomas Jefferson. I was saddened when at the meeting 2 weeks ago, the Commission gave in to people pushing their own agenda and made the decision not to give Oregon City voters the freedom and right vote on urban renewal. About 3 years ago, I worked on an initiative that would have allowed voters to vote on these projects. I want you to know it was not difficult to get signatures. Over 90% of the people immediately signed my petition when they found out that their right and their freedom to vote would be taken away. I am at Bridgeport Village twice a week. Only 2 of the anchor stores are doing fairly well. The other businesses are struggling. Today, Borders Bookstore filed for bankruptcy. Jared Jewelers and others are out of business. In talking with employees at the village, they do not shop there. It's too expensive. They go home and go to the discount stores. Some have stated that a shopping center is a win-win for Oregon City. I disagree. Shopping centers are vacant ghosts around the United States. They bring nothing but crime, theft, drugs, and gangs. Reported crimes are spiking at Clackamas Town Center. Since light rail opened in the past year, crime has gone up 48.1% at Town Center. And yes, light rail will come to Oregon City, unfortunately, if this center is built, and will bring crime with it. If a shopping center is a win-win and a creator of money into a community, then why isn't Town Center producing money for this community? Why are they forced to close 2 to 3 schools, shorten their year, and lay off staff? This urban renewal district took more than $3 million last year from their schools. Urban renewal took $636,832 from our kids here in Oregon City and took $68 million statewide. Is this worth it? What are we doing to our kids? The rivers, I feel, would be a huge failure for Oregon City. For me, I'd rather see a college or a university on the landfill, or a cash cow that would get this city moving in the right direction. This land is too valuable to waste on a shopping center that will just eat city dollars and deprive our schools and children from getting the education they deserve. It takes courage and vision to be a leader. It is your job to gather the facts and not be intimidated. It is your job to listen to your citizens, do what's right for them in the face of all adversity. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Don Wright. I live in Oregon City. I have since 2000. I bring you the parable of Council Bluffs, Iowa, and Omaha, Nebraska. It's at the other end of the Mormon part of the Oregon Trail. And what happened was that Council Bluffs was a thriving community on the east side of the Missouri River, and Omaha was a little bug shuffle place on the west side. And along about, I'll get the dates here, 1883, a proposal came by to form a stockyards, and they wanted to put it in Council Bluffs, Iowa, which was the eastern terminus of the Union Pacific Railroad. And Council Bluffs decided that was not a good thing for them. They said no. So the Union Stockyards went to Omaha. Here are the numbers. 1860, Omaha had a population of 1,800, Council Bluffs 2,000. 1870, Omaha had a population of 16,000. Council Bluffs had 10,000. In 1880, Omaha had 30,000. Council Bluffs had about 28,000. In 1890, this is 7 years after the stockyards opened, Omaha had a population of 140,452, and Council Bluffs went back down to about 18,000. Today, Omaha has a population of about 500,000 people. Council Bluffs, Iowa has a population of around 50,000. A missed opportunity. I don't know if the rivers is the right opportunity there, but definitely something needs to kickstart this community for the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Marna Moore. I reside at 18415 Southeast Wilmot in the Jennings Lodge area. My husband's family has been here for 4 generations. We have 4 generations that have attended the Oregon City School District. My main thing is that the things that I'm questioning is this. I feel that the downtown Oregon City is severely challenged by the bridge closure. I don't think we need to lump anything else on top of that. The traffic is terrible. Now, I also am wondering, we do not seem to have enough money or taxes to man or to run the new fire station on South End Road. Now, I have my son and his family and my daughter and their family live within walking distance of that fire station. I would certainly feel much more assured if the city would put an emphasis on opening that fire station with all the new development that is up on that hill now. It has doubled. Is it open now? Okay, I'm sorry, but it's been a while, and I had not noticed it, but thank you very much. Okay, I'm glad it is. Now, the last time I talked to my son-in-law, he said, all right, in conclusion, all right, the other thing I have is this, that I feel that a project this size with this impact on the surrounding area needs to be put to a public vote. I think that's necessary. There's too many affected by it not to have the right to vote on it. The second thing is, and in conclusion, is this. I feel that no Oregon City tax funds or county tax funds, I understand there will be a small percent of that, should go to a private developer, and this money will take years to be recouped. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alan Keyser. I've been here twice before on this subject. I represent electricians and building trades workers residing in this area. I'd like to convey our support of this project. It stands for a lot of commerce, and like Mrs. Walters says, we support our community. And thank you for the opportunity of letting me come again.
Thank you.
Mark McCarthy and Carmen McDonald.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark McCarthy. I work in Oregon City. I live in Clackamas County. And I work for Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor. I've been there for about 14 years. It's a very nice place to work. I truly enjoy it. It's a nice atmosphere. Every day is something neat and new to do. So I also have something else that's kind of bothering me. From what I hear, some of the Clackamas County taxes are going to go to a portion of this mall. Well, I live in this, and I pay the taxes for my house, for the property, and they just closed my 10-year-old daughter's elementary school with over 300 kids in it. So if I was to weigh this out, build a mall or keep an elementary school running with teachers, what would you pick? Well, I'd pick the school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carmen McDonald. I live in West Lynn, but for the better part of the last 10 years, I've worked in downtown Oregon City and feel pretty close to it. And, the first speaker tonight talked about the unique and wonderful nature of this piece of property we're talking about. Its value, it's special, it's the last, it's, and the driving questions going into my mind is, if this property is so special, why do you have to put out $17.6 million to have somebody develop it? Why? When you start a business, you take risks. And those are your own risks. And last night had the chance to speak with Councilwoman Mumm, and we had a discussion about whether public dollars would be used in this effort. And it was your answer, if I'm correct, that no. The public's tax dollars would not be spent in this.
It's paid back by the tax increment of the developer.
Yeah, which I found interesting because, okay, so no, it will be put out but then come back based on the taxes. But that seems to be just playing games with the numbers to me, frankly. Really straightforward. We're playing shell games with the dollars here. Yeah, the city's going to lay out $17.6 million. Those are city tax dollars that have been accrued. And you'll get them back over 20 years, but in a normal business, the startup costs would be paid back by the business, and the taxes would be paid by the business. So that while it's convenient to polish how the expenditures are being made, it's still public money going to this. And for 20 years or whatever the period, 20 or 25 years that it takes back to pay these millions of dollars, those monies are not available for the rest of the citizens of Oregon City and their needs in public services and other opportunities that could be brought along and shown benefit by these dollars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask, do you think somebody can explain urban renewal and how it gets paid out?
Can we keep the citizen comments, and then maybe, I think we're supposed to have a session about that. What's the group? Is there?
So are you guys going to hang out until like 7?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Because they can explain it.
Nick Garoffi and Tammy Kehoe.
Good evening. My name is Nick Vorosky. I live in Portland. The use of city urban renewal dollars for this project in relation to the job creation and the tourism creation and the spending power that will be attracted to Oregon City is phenomenal leverage. Just for the information of some of the people that don't fully understand the point at which these dollars are going out is, as I understand at least from my studies, is that the developer will fully build this center and occupy it to 80% occupancy before they are entitled to those dollars. And those dollars were calculated based on the amount of money that it costs to mitigate some of the environmental concerns of the property. With $17 million going out, and the studies have shown that there are estimated 300 construction jobs that will be temporary, 1,500 permanent jobs, and potentially 500 spin-off jobs for $17 million of urban renewal money is an incredible leverage. And if we look at some of the desired manufacturing industries that were mentioned in last election, solar kind of being the current darling that Oregon is trying to attract. Wilsonville just attracted solar power, and I will say that the numbers are a little bit hard to grab for sure, but from my reading, it appears that there were about $100 million of public money from state, city, federal, and other interest groups that went into attracting solar power to create about 170 jobs. We're talking about $17 million to create 1,700 jobs, just to make the math a little bit easier. With that, the demographics of the developers of their projects indicates that there will be about $100 billion of spending power that will be attracted to within 5 minutes of downtown Portland, or downtown Oregon City, sorry. There has got to be some way that we can get 1% of that into downtown Oregon City, an additional $1 billion of spending power.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Gabby Kehoe, resident of Oregon City. I came here today because I had a question regarding the urban renewal funding for the Rivers project and the public contracting laws. The Oregon Public Contracting Code states that the principles underlying competitive procurement are to instill public confidence through ethical and fair dealing, honesty and good faith on the part of government officials and those who do business with the government. To promote efficient use of state and local government resources, maximizing the economic investment and public contracting within the state, and allow impartial and open competition, protecting both the integrity of the public contracting process and the competitive nature of public procurement. Public contracting laws contain provisions pertaining to procurement of services and source selection provisions for the procurement of services in the design and construction field for or by a contracting agency, a public body, whether or not the construction is for a public improvement. Architectural, engineering, land survey, and construction-related services are covered within the statute unless they're exempted by certain provisions in the statute, a local rule, implementation of a local rule or contract. It also contains a detailed list of contract conditions that must be in every public improvement contract and the prevailing wage laws. So some questions that come to mind are, does the Oregon City urban renewal funding for the Rivers project fall under public contracting laws? Since they're going to be reimbursed with urban renewal funds once they're at 80% capacity, does this mean that they do not have to adhere to public contracting laws? Does the urban city renewal funding for the Rivers project fall under a public works contract? One type of a public works contract is a project for the construction or major renovation of a building, structure, or improvement of any type that uses funds of a private entity and $750,000 or more of funds of a public agency. Does the manner in which Oregon City urban renewal funding will be appropriated to the Rivers project allow for an exemption to the prevailing wage laws? Prevailing wage rates are minimum hourly rates a contractor must pay its employees under public works contracts. And the contract agency or contractor can request a determination from BOLI or the Bureau of Labor and industries. Bully also requires notification. You have to submit a list of public improvement and its plans that you plan on funding during the coming budget period. And the list must be submitted at least 30 days before it adopts a budget.
Thank you for your comments.
Patty Jarrett and Ralph Groner.
My name is Patty Jarrett. I grew up in Oregon City and attended Oregon City High School. And I've done a lot of research on this issue, and research documents, and local retailers can also tell you this, that the retail pie in a small community like ours is relatively fixed and only grows as population and income grow. Using public money to help cite a big box store appears to me to be a shell game. Shoppers don't have more money for fly rods just because there are more places to buy them. There has been active and successful support of local businesses by our local government, such as the Main Street Project. What is the logic of spending a huge amount of money to be in a huge retailer, just as these local businesses are struggling to grow in this economy? A 10% increase in local spending has been documented. That if a big box store, a 10% increase in local spending at a big box store can result in contraction of the local economy and failure of some smaller businesses. Retail subsidies do not appear about growing the economy. All a big box store can really do is steal sales and jobs from other stores. Whether or not people will travel to a destination point such as Cabela's is questionable given the price of gas, our current economy, etc. There are many studies that have proven the economic value of local businesses over big box stores. I implore you to develop ways to use urban renewal funds to harness the local power of local independent retail to build our local economy. This in the long run will help our community protect itself from the huge economic swings. I personally believe the age of big box stores is over. Please consider building a mix of public-private ways to provide low-interest, long-term loans and other benefits to generate new neighborhood stores that will expand our ability to meet our needs locally. If development of the waste dump site is needed to provide revenue and jobs, underwrite remediation and make the site suitable for development, and support funding to assist local businesses that will build real economic viability in Oregon City. Local employees, such as those from Fisherman's, want to keep their jobs and remain part of the community. You can help them do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just love to love people I disagree with. Born and raised here, I know most of those I disagree with. For the record, I just testified on 3 budgets in Salem. That's why I'm late. Ralph Groner. I've lived in Oregon City, born here, raised here in West Lynn, lived here recently. I want to hit my 3 minutes, so I'll basically focus on one issue. I'm glad you're meeting here. In case somebody thinks I'm a degenerate, this building was built because I lobbied it with Al Ullman as chairman of Ways and Means, and I could say that all the senior centers were. And I also was the chairman of the first urban renewal district that I'm probably the only one in the building who can give you some advice as to what I've been hearing without being negative. The fact is I chaired and signed into being similar property to the brownfield. Those of you who lived here must know what the town center was. Long power lines, cows, I counted 3, and a dilapidated neighborhood. And by the way, that's what urban renewal, which for commercial is the only avenue we have. We created that many years ago, and there was a lot of conflict, but I can tell you the final result is a vision, not a mall. The final result I see is a bigger vision, and I can't do in 3 minutes, so let me compare the small vision. The small vision is that similar to the Clackamas area, where we built Sunnyside Road, 4 overpasses, bright light rail without criminal activity to the town center, paid for by our Urban Renewal District, and buildings, roads, highways, lightings, sewer, all of that in the entire area was done under urban renewal. Today, the value of that property surrounding the mall is the minor issue to me. It's the total evaluation of what you build, and anybody here could get something done the way you want as long as you have money coming in to do it. And to do it, we're over $1 billion in property value in the town center area, and we have literally 20,000 to 30,000 employees in that area only because we improved all the systems. And my daddy taught me as a youngster in this town. He only had a 4th grade education and worked at the mill. It takes money to make money. And quite frankly, we're either going to spend some money on this and advances to appease everybody, but from that will come hundreds of millions ultimately that will go into the general fund, which funds K through 12, which a gentleman talked about. If we don't, he'll see more closures. And if we increase the economy, we help fund seniors, corrections, parole and probation, Oregon Youth Authority, all my public safety members that I represent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Johnson, William Gifford, and then Rob Conger, and that's the last one. Madam Chairman.
Good evening. My name is Mary Johnson. I've been a local business owner in Oregon City for 20 years. I've also served on the Planning Commission for the city. Urban renewal encourages public-private partnerships like the rivers that's now being proposed. We have an urban renewal plan in the city, and the development of this particular property is in that plan, so it is suitable. This particular property is environmentally challenged because it was a landfill, so it makes it more difficult to build on and more costly to build on, so it's an appropriate place to put urban renewal money. There's been rumors of, methane gas and it'll explode and kill us all. Well, we have Home Depot already in the city built on landfill with an appropriate methane recovery system, so there's no risk to human health. Since I've had a business in Oregon City, and I did reside in Oregon City for about 15 years, the population has nearly doubled. The population that we now have after the aggressive residential expansion in the 90s when I was on the Planning Commission needs retail goods that are available locally. With the increase in traffic, it takes a half an hour to get to Clackamas Town Center, or you have to go over to Bridgeport, or you have to go south to the stores in Woodburn. We need some sort of development, and there is a very vocal anti-development group of people that are in the minority in this area that will work very hard to defeat any development whatsoever, and let us not let that happen this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is William Gifford, and I live in Oregon City, and I love this process, and I'm tickled silly to have the opportunity to chat with you. I wasn't going to say anything, but I had a couple of points. I saw something on Twitter recently that I thought was so good I just had to retweet it, and something about the difficulty with quotations on the Internet is that they are so difficult to verify, and that was attributed to Abraham Lincoln. I heard recently that 84.7% of all statistics are made up on the spot. As a statistician, I'm sure some people could appreciate that. So I won't try to quote specifically the number, but I heard recently that there are over 100 taxing districts in Clackamas County. It was a big number. I won't have to make anything up, but it's a lot of taxing districts, from the vector to the fire district to school districts, as well as cities, municipalities, and so on. And from some of the testimony that I've heard tonight, it seems to me as though people seem to think that there is just one fungible, I won't use the big words, one big bucket that everybody can take money out of. And it's just not true. As you know, I'm sure, being commissioners, that schools aren't closed because the fire district doesn't have enough money, or the city can't open fire districts or fire stations. There's walls between this money, and that's just the way it is. And it seems to me a shame that our citizens aren't better informed about that. And maybe the city council could do something about educating the citizens of Oregon City about how taxing districts work. There's another concept that I wanted to mention. My second point is that of a concept that's called, now the trendy word is traded sector businesses. I'm a traded sector business. I ship merchandise to every state in the union and 50 different countries. I ship all over the world, and every dollar that I make from there comes into Oregon City, and I buy locally. Now, you can say the big box stores, all that money goes back to national headquarters, but I'm telling you, a lot of that money stays here. And with numbers that big, some of that money and a small price of a big pie, a small piece of a big pie, is better than a small piece of a small pie. And I'd say, let's get more people in here. Let's have them spending money. And if we can't spin that off into other places in Oregon City where those buying customers are going to be able to spend money in Oregon City, well, then shame on us.
Thank you.
Rob Crocker and Dan Bauer.
You said your name. Rob Crocker, business and small business and building owner in Oregon City. First of all, I'm stoked that so many people are here, both pro and con. I think it's awesome. One thing I'm slightly concerned about is, we all, I think, in the end, want the same thing for Oregon City, and I would really hate to see this kind of dive into us versus them, regardless of what side you're on. So I hope that we can all. Maybe rather than focusing on where we differ, maybe we can focus on what we're all for. And I think that's a brighter future for Oregon City. I think it's improved funding for schools, for elimination of blight, improved livability, and so on and so forth. So I won't belabor that, but I hope we can find some common ground on what we're for. I personally, I am for the rivers, but I think somewhat for a different reason than a lot of other people. Yeah, the jobs are awesome. That would be amazing. Some of the other things would be amazing. But really what this is about for me is downtown Oregon City. It is. The way that tax increment financing works is we have to create significant tax increment, significant property value in order to get dollars that we can invest in other projects in the urban renewal district. And downtown Oregon City is near and dear to my heart. My entire net worth, or maybe I should say my entire net debt, is on Main Street in Oregon City. It is. I'm all in. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who heavily invested, but I'm all in on Oregon City, on Main Street. So I see the rivers as an opportunity for us to generate a lot of tax increment that we can invest in downtown and make it an amazing place. Okay, so that's where I come from. I think if people are against the rivers for whatever reason, I think that's fine. If you're against over-commercialism, if you're against consumerism, if you're against large development or paving, anything, that's awesome. That's cool. I have no problem with that. We can agree to disagree. I'm cool with that. But one thing I want to be careful about is that there's a lot of misunderstandings and half-truths, and this is a confusing subject. It really is. There's a lot of things that there's some misinformation on both sides. Either side is kind of construing the facts. You can always find a fact to support your point of view. There's no doubt about it. One thing I want to make clear, though, there is no $17.6 million. That money does not exist. And that's what everybody has to understand. We cannot take that money and invest it in downtown. We can't take it and invest it in anything else. It doesn't exist until this development or one like it that'll generate that property value happens. There is no $17.6 million. So if we talk about spending it on schools or anything else, it doesn't exist. So I want to make sure that everybody's clear on that. The other thing, the misinformation, this is taking millions of dollars away from schools. That is a lie. And I want to make that very, very clear. We had the superintendent here say that the last time we were here. It's a lie. Okay? That is not the truth. Schools get their funding from the state. The state takes the big pie of all the money and it distributes it to the school based on enrollment. So if we want to help our schools, we need students. To get students, you need families. To get families, you need jobs. Okay? So if we want to help the schools, we need jobs. And it's a lie that it's taking money from the schools. There's a couple. I love some of the people that talked against the rivers. I love them. Carmen McDonald, I love that guy. Patty Eddy, she's one of my tenants. I love Patty. And Mi Familia is the best pizza in town. It's the best pizza in the Portland area. All right. So if you don't go, you better get down there. All right. Mi Familia is awesome. But here's the thing. And if they're against it, that's totally fine. But I want to make sure they know it's for the right reasons. I wish I could go on. Patty Jarrett. You and I are on the same page because low interest loans and everything that we can do for Main Street, Oregon City, we need to do it with increment that we can generate.
Thank you. Wow. I thought I could talk fast. No. Dan Fowler, Oregon City. Just some quick facts and then a vision statement. The property is zoned for commercial development. It complies with our comp plan. It's private property, not public property. This is a private development. I really believe the DEQ will not allow the development to go in there, that it won't make it better. We have a willing property owner and a willing developer. It follows the goals of urban renewal, and there are no county taxes going into that. You did a good job on explaining that. There is no money. The only way that urban renewal gets money is by added value. The only way you have added value is to do something. So there is no money if something isn't done. Now, we can debate on what to do with that money once it's done. But my concern is, and I just think, I love the process. I love that people are here on this issue. I wish we could take the same group and really get around a big table and talk about Urban Renewal 101 so we understood how it works, because there's a lot of misinformation. It's well-intended. I don't think there's anything that's not well-intended. But here's my real hope. My real hope is that we do get the DDA brought forward, that we have the facts of that DDA brought forward, that you as an urban renewal body and you as staff can go over that with a fine-tooth comb, that you can stand up for what you believe is best for Oregon City, and you can get it approved. Because I think there's a lot of good in there. My vision, if I could share, to do a few things with urban renewal. Get the rivers done. It adds value. It will be the impetus that gives you some money to do other good things in downtown. I believe you have to have services before housing. I'd love to see housing in our downtown. It will not happen short of having an expanded service base. That's what that can do. With that, if I could encourage you to do three things: get the rivers, get some money for parking structures in downtown Oregon City, amend your urban renewal district, include the mill, save money, buy at least a third of it closest to the falls, put in a public park. You can stand back and you'll watch the community develop. You'll maintain your local flavor in your downtown because of scale. You'll have a larger development on the landfill, which will give you the money to do so. That's my hope. Thank you. 19 seconds.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dan Holliday. I live in Oregon City, and I have for a while. I wanted to talk about a couple of facts that we need to clear up, just to start with. Why are urban renewal dollars being used on this project? And the strongest answer I have is that the region, and everybody wants to talk about regionalism, the region buried its garbage there for 40-some years. So all of us have contributed to this mess at the base of our city. So it makes sense for us to use public money to mitigate the issue and be able to cover that landfill and make it produce something. To follow up on Rob's point, you can't take that area and make it a public park, because at that point you're not going to produce any tax increment, because that's not going to be a taxable piece of land anymore, and so you weren't fitting the goals of what urban renewal is all about. A comment was made that we need to encourage small local business. Well, walk around Gresham Station or Bridgeport. Look not only inside those areas, but in the areas surrounding them that have grown up since those projects have been completed. And I know, because I have worked in many, many, many of those buildings as those new tenants come in and built security systems. So there are a ton of small businesses in both Bridgeport and in Gresham. There will be plenty of room, small 1,000 square foot or smaller retail spaces inside the Rivers project to allow for folks. The lady was talking about her hat shop or whatever, whether she wants to locate that in Oregon City or in downtown Oregon City or in the Rivers. That's a possibility. I do encourage us. I've seen a lot of emails flowing back and forth. If folks could stick to verifiable facts when we talk about this, instead of half-truths and innuendos and half-articles, it would be a benefit to everyone. The last thing is to talk about civility. And some mentions have been made over the last couple of days in email chains that somehow this has not been a civil process. And the fact is that I can't recall a time, and I've served through some contentious hearings. We cited a fire station. I can't recall a time when there has been more civility. You can't expect, especially on the internet, especially anonymous comments, on one side or another of a newspaper article. The crazies from both sides come out and say crazy things in there. I know that when I comment under my own name, whether I do it, on the internet or whether I do it here in public, and that's what I'd encourage other folks to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great. So we're moving on to the next agenda item.
Could I just, because I saw Mr. Sullivan, Ms. Kehoe actually asked some specific questions that I hadn't heard asked here before. I think you were writing them down.
I did.
Are you able to respond to them at this time?
No, because you haven't got a contract, and you haven't got a means of sending this out.
Okay,
but I will
the question
be.
I had, if certain of those conditions, in fact, would not necessarily apply to a contractor, could they be conditioned to do so within a development agreement?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the Commission? Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 3, which is future agenda items. Do we have any future agenda items from the Commission? Okay, next item is adoption of the agenda. Yes, Rocky.
Move to adopt.
I actually want to ask a question as a possible addition to the agenda tonight. On the agenda for our City Commission meeting is a resolution to bring the DDA forward from Senator Cal, or invite Senator Cal to bring the DDA forward to this commission. I guess my comment and hopefully possibly having a couple minutes to talk about this on the agenda tonight is to possibly have this commission discuss that and bring it forward. The City Commission sits on this commission. This commission is the commission that will look at the DDA. This is the commission that will decide where this project goes, and therefore I'm wondering why it's not this commission that is formally requesting the DDA to come forward and not the city commission. So I'd like to see if we could talk about that and possibly, maybe make a motion if someone wants to have this commission asked to bring that forward rather than the city commission.
Any thoughts on that? Yes, Commissioner Edgar.
I think it's altogether appropriate for this commission to review this, and in as much as that we're going to be the people that are going to be reviewing and eventually approving the DDA, I think we should be at the table.
Commissioner Mum.
I'm kind of concerned about our agenda and the time, so just, can we keep it brief? I don't know. Or can we table it next meeting?
Commissioner Neely.
Well, I prefer it not be tabled because we have it before the city commission meeting, and if in fact the commissioners do not want this to be put forward, they can make that decision. This is not a requirement that the Urban Renewal Commission, of course, approve anything in terms of development agreement that's brought forward. This is just a request for the developer to, in fact, bring the development agreement forward. That's all it is. It's not a statement it's not even a statement of support for the development agreement by members of the commission. For one thing, we don't have the development agreement before us at this time. So I think the decision whether the city commission does that or not, this Urban Renewal Commission can speak to that. The city commission then could decide to withdraw on its own at the commission meeting the resolution, and that's up to the city commission.
Well, we're talking about adding to the agenda, so is there consent? I mean, is there, can we take a poll as to whether people want to add this to the end of the agenda? Take a vote?
Commissioner Smith?
I would like to, but I'm one person, so apparently not.
Commissioner Nocita?
Sure. Aye.
Commissioner Long?
Sure, I'll support Rob.
Commissioner Rock?
Yeah.
Commissioner Neely?
Well, I'll make it, I'm going to say no because I'm putting forward the resolution.
Commissioner Shaw?
Yeah, I'll hear it.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Edgar?
Yes.
And Chair Walters?
Yes. Okay, so we have 9. It sounds like we'll go ahead and put it on the end of tonight's agenda. After the, should we do it? We'll do it before the city manager's report. Is that okay?
Good.
Okay. All right. So we're moving on to item 5, general business, and I would like to introduce Mr. Charlie Stevens. Charlie is the Senior Energy Codes and Standards Engineer at the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance. He is a highly regarded consultant and advisor on sustainable community development and an expert in economic impacts of energy use, the relationship between energy and food, prospects for various alternatives to fossil fuels, and the relationship between energy and American foreign policy. Mr. Stevens is a former Navy commander and a 22-year veteran and has completed 17 years of service at the state of Oregon as a senior policy analyst. And we thank you, Mr. Stevens, for coming here tonight, and thanks to the Commission for allowing Mr. Stevens to talk to us.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for inviting me to speak briefly. This may be a disappointment to some people in the room, but I'm not going to speak about the rivers tonight. I am going to speak about commercial real estate development, generically. What I'm going to have to say would apply equally well to office building development, mixed-use development, any other kind of commercial real estate development. It's just in the interest of explaining to people how this works, why it works the way it does. I'm also not going to be forecasting the future here tonight. I'm going to stick to the past and looking back at data. Patty Jarrett, I think, earlier covered some of that material. There's a lot of it out there if you look in the right places. So I will leave it to people in the room to decide how to apply what I'm going to have to say, but before we start, I think I would like to do at least a little bit of context here for where we sit as a society looking at development. I should also apologize a little bit for the slides you have that are printed. I do slides that have multiple layers, so there's some stuff you can't see there, but you'll see it shortly. Most people haven't seen what debt looks like in the economy, and I'm only going to talk about the upper right-hand corner of this thing, which occurred from 2000 or so, 1998 actually, on. The last piece of that curve, about the last half of that big leg up there, shows what's happened to our debt in this country. It's gone a lot higher since. The numbers on the left are a fraction of GDP, just so you know. So we're up around now about 360 to 380% of GDP. It's continued to go up. You can see back there in the 1930s, I guess you can see where 1929 was. But in any case, debt is a serious problem in this country right now, and one of the reasons the economy is struggling is there's so much of it that won't be paid back. Okay. For those of you who've never seen one on paper, this is a real estate asset value inflation bubble. It starts back in about 1998. The bottom line on that chart is the inflation-adjusted value of the market value of all the real estate in the United States, commercial and residential. You can see back in about 1990, the total value was $7.4 trillion. In 2006 alone, the debt added to our real estate was $3.7 trillion. About half of that, by the way, is commercial and about half is residential in round numbers. Now, what I want to point out is those two numbers. Those two numbers, when you subtract the lower one from the upper one, gives you the fictional value that was created in a bubble caused by low interest rates and the creation of an enormous amount of debt. Now, that is evaporating right now, which is why the Fed is so busy lately. It has to. We're about $8 trillion now into the evaporation of the $12 trillion in excess value that the real estate market acquired between 1998 and 2008 when it all fell down. Now, this is the model for commercial real estate development. The only number I'm going to show you tonight for the rivers has to do with the bond amount, and so none of these values apply to the rivers. They're just exemplary of a typical development project. Don't look at the specific numbers, just look at the magnitude. You know, I'm pointing out the difference between the tens of millions of dollars and the hundreds of millions of dollars and the $1 million tonight. It's 8 years listed because 7 or 8 years is about the length of time that the first owner owns one of these projects before they sell it. The reason that they do that is over on the right-hand column. You can sort of see that there's this depreciation number because of a 1954 tax law that allowed you to depreciate commercial property over 15 years. It started a lot of real estate development during the time when our interstate highway system was developing. In 1981, they changed the law and essentially created the depreciation schedule you see there in the second column over. Okay? And the decimal places are right. So you can see that in 8 years, they can depreciate just about 88% of the value of their investment. Now, this can happen over and over again. Each new owner can do the same thing, you understand. So you take the depreciation, you subtract the maintenance costs from your income from the property, you make your income, and the balance of your taxable income is in the right-hand column. You can apply that to other income you earned elsewhere. Now, once you get into this cycle, you have to keep going because you're going to have taxable income if you don't. But you can sort of see what happens in year 8. Pretty soon, you start having taxable income over there, and it's time to sell. And you sell to somebody else, and they start to cycle over again, and you go build another one. Now, one of the just so you see my assumptions up there, there's just some dollars per square foot up there in terms of what the space leases for and what it earns. That's what those little yellow boxes are. So in any case, they've invested $190 million. All the money, all the dollar numbers you see in this chart are based on the $190 million, not the with tenant improvement figure of $240. So that's just the investor who bought the place before tenant improvement was finished. Now, you can sort of see the trend here in vacancy rates. Vacancy rates are still a problem, not only in retail but in offices and other kinds of commercial space. I can't forecast where it's going, but there's not much in the economy that I see right now in terms of purchasing power that would change it. It might be flat for a while, or it might go up, I don't know. But it's not very good. Here's another view of it. The gray bars are new project completion numbers. This is from the Marcus and Milchap and CoStar group down there in the lower right-hand corner, if you see. I think CoStar is something that I've seen floating around Oregon City lately. But you can sort of see what the trends are here. Vacancies are going up, completions are going down. This is another slide having to do with retail only. And you can sort of see that rents are going down. And I'm not, again, wanting to point out the specific numbers to the nearest decimal place. What I want you to see is how far things moved. You know, look how far they've come. Half in the case of rents and double in the case of vacancy. This is not looking very good, and it hasn't picked up all that well recently. Everybody jumps on these small upticks as though it's some kind of a trend, but I wouldn't bet on it. Another regional mall-specific trend, these are the numbers, vacancy rates in blue, rents in the red. They aren't doing all that well either. Now there's a reason for this. A lot of that nice run-up in this stuff was during the bubble. That bubble was fomented by Alan Greenspan, and he testified to that effect in front of Congress. He basically said, yep, people are going to borrow more money against their house and they're going to spend it. And we're going to have a booming economy, and by George, we did. Unfortunately, it was all built on debt, and I showed you the bubble before. We're in some trouble because of that. This number is the number of square feet per man, woman, and child in the United States of all retail space of all types. That's the comparable European number per person. Square. This is the number of just Tier 1 and Tier 2 dry goods. That's what applies to the kind of projects that you're looking at here. So we have a lot of retail space in this country, more than we need in most cases because many are struggling. Now this stuff, when you build this stuff, it does create a temporary draw and a lot of retail dollars. In Cleveland, Ohio, where there's about almost 20% vacancy rate in retail right now, they are still building. And they're still building this. And it's because of that nice model I told you about. Because first and foremost, these things are tax shelters. They are income tax shelters. 1/4 of the national income, you can check the Federal Reserve flow of funds data for this, 1/4 of the national income goes through this channel, most of it tax-free. We've heard a lot of talk about jobs. Fortunately, there's been an enormous amount of research done on this in the last 15 years. It's been done at the UC Irvine, it's been done at the University of Missouri, it's been done out of Colgate, Bard, and Cornell in New York, University of Pennsylvania. There are lots and lots of studies that have looked at the impact of this development as it plays out over a period of 10 to 15 years, which is 2 ownership cycles, by the way. These are the folks that did the study that these numbers came from. Basically, across all of these kinds of developments, county-wide employment fell by 3.2% after this kind of development took place. County-wide retail earnings went down 2.8% generally. Now, I'm looking backwards here, and people can make a case that whatever they want to build is different than what's been going on before, but this is what's been going on before. Now, you can sort of see what happens when you get the jobs. Down there in the bottom, you can see 1,500 jobs. That's a number that I've heard floating around here, so I used it. The new mall, whatever mall it is, $10 an hour, 30 hours a week, there's your annual income for your employees. Now, the existing businesses that are going to lose the jobs, you can sort of see there that they pay, typically, according to the studies, just a little bit more, about 10% more. They have more benefits. Now, down there in the bottom, under the retailer, that's how much the retailers are going to take away each year. So you can sort of see the fraction of the revenue that the retail generates that the employees are going to get. There's not much more than that anybody in the Oregon City area is going to get. Most of the goods that are sold in these things come from national warehouses, many of them in California. They're shipped by their own trucks or by contract trucks that have nothing to do with local businesses. They do not patronize local businesses for their tax preparation or anything else. I think that was covered earlier. So the fact of the matter is, this is about the limitation of your benefit right here. I heard about the property taxes. Like I said, the only reason I use this is because it's the only number that's out there right now, and you people are talking about it. But $17,600,000 over 20 years amounts to about $29 million. So that's how much you're going to pay. The way this works, in simple terms, is that that investment is made in the property. It increases the value of the property at some multiple. The increment in taxes goes to pay off the bond. It's that simple. That's all that happens. But now, mind you, you're going to pay back $29 million on your 17.6. So that's what it works out to for 20 years at 5.5%. So that's the investment you're going to make. And now the reason I can't do that, the reason why I can't get Oregon City to come to my house and invest, $20,000 in my house, sell a bond, is because there's no public benefit for me. I'm just me and my property. But wouldn't it be good if I could get you to sell a bond and invest in my property, and all of that increment in taxes that I would pay due to that increase in the value of my property went into my property? I could direct all of my taxes into the value of my own property, and that's a nice thing. But that's the way it works. You can understand why this works. I'm not saying anything bad against any of this stuff. This is just the way it works. You can understand why these people do these things. It makes sense based on the way the tax law is right now. But it's not the only thing you can do. So what would you do if you didn't do this? There's no really imperative here. It was touched on earlier. I think Patty Nettie talked about it. I think the owner of Fisherman's talked about it. Patty Jarrett talked about it. There are lots of strategies being engaged in by lots of communities around this country. Some of them are even local, like Bellingham, Washington is a good example. Small businesses there are thriving, but very small investment from the city. There's lots of cities doing this stuff all around the country. Now, the kind of stuff they do is not big projects. You don't sell 17 or 20 or $25 million worth of bonds. You might actually only invest hundreds of thousands, because a lot of what small businesses need doesn't amount to a big bunch of stuff in the ground. Some of it does. I mean, sometimes you build stuff. Sometimes you rebuild stuff, like Oregon City Shopping Center. And there's something that'll come up here, I think you'll see, that can be done rather elegantly. And Metro has been following some of that work that's been going on around the country. But the fact is, for a lot less risk, a lot lower money, you can probably create a lot more jobs. Then there's a net loss in jobs typically when you build one of these things. That the data, looking backward again, pretty much demonstrates that conclusively, all the studies. The numbers come out a little different. It's not minus 3.2, it might be minus 1.7, it might be minus 4.1, but it's minus every time. So if you want jobs, and you want decent jobs, the data suggests that you should invest in another way. And actually, there are lots of other ways. I'll leave a website with you at the end, where you can find a lot of those strategies and a lot of the towns and the cities that are doing all this stuff. This is the core of what we do. We invest in the existing community. We invest in keeping jobs here instead of losing them. Oregon City sits at the northern end of the breadbasket of Oregon. We've lost most of our food processing businesses in this state. I happen to serve in the food community as well, and there's a real interest there in regaining some food processing capacity because there's a real interest in growing a lot more food here. And it's all just south of here. And you have railroad, you have proximity to highway, you have all the tools that it takes to do that. Really good jobs, really good stuff. There are lots of people working on the most efficient ways to do that. So there's a lot of other opportunities to invest, and I would suggest that you haven't finished until you've looked at them all, or at least some more of them. This, by the way, is what happens to a big box that used to be. Those vacant ones I showed you earlier can sometimes end up looking like that. This is the website I mentioned. If you go to that website, you'll find that there's an enormous amount of resource there, case studies, lists of places that are doing a lot of good work, and the strategies they're using are very creative, they're low cost, they're low risk, and they seem to be working even in these horrible economic times we're struggling through right now. And that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Stevens from the Commission? No questions? Okay. We're moving on to Agenda Item 5B, and this is the Storefront Improvement Grant for 812 and 814 Main Street. May we have Dan Drentlaw give us the staff report?
I need to recuse myself. Conflict of interest on 5B. So
Thank you. I forgot to mention that. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. Yeah, tonight we have 3 storefront grant applications. The first one is for Avcup Holdings located at 812 and 814 Main Street. Currently, the business, the building is used for offices, and their proposal has a total expenditure of $78,000 for facade improvements that include addition of transom windows, painting, period lighting, and other facade improvements. They're asking for a storefront grant of 50%, which would be $39,100. And as you'll recall, we changed our guidelines for storefront grants. And in situations where they restore buildings to their original facade, which is what the staff believes is being proposed here, the grant amount can go up to $40,000. We had 4 staff reviewers look at this. And we had an average score of 97%, which is well above the 70% that's required. And it seems very consistent with the historical, the original historic character of the building. You can see in your packet there are some pictures of what that building looked like several years ago. And you can also see that the corner of the building on the alley is recessed, which was not typical for buildings of this age. That recessed area will be brought out and flush with the streetscape, and it'll be very consistent with the surrounding buildings. So the staff is recommending approval of this grant. I'm not sure if the applicant is here, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comment from the Commission?
This is, I wish they had the slides to put up, but I guess. Guess we don't. Anyway, yeah. I guess I just wanted to say this is a project that I think is really well done. In terms of the discussion that we've had in the past with the amounts to give for storefront grants and adding an amount for bringing buildings back to the character that we'd like to see, original characters of the buildings. This is a great example of that, I think. It's a unique, what they've done with the corner of the building in the past is very unique. And I can just tell by the before and after pictures, this is the type of projects that I think we should be really advocating for, because it will bring Main Street back. So I'm excited about it, and I think this is a good project to advocate for. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Thanks. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Shaw.
I was a little curious when we first had these storefront grants, we had kind of a 50% match, but at that time the maximum was $10,000, and we did have a little concern about some of these bigger projects that were going to come forward to us, and we wanted to make sure they were done in the best possible way, and the only way we could do that is to increase those grants, and that's why I'm glad to see that this is actually going to be one of those, so it's great.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the staff's review and the thoroughness of the applicant. You've put a tremendous amount of work in this, and I have to agree that it's really nice to see such a complete package. Thank you. Yeah. Commissioner Edgar.
I too I really enjoy the fact that you've taken the extra step to improve the historic imagery of the building. I have one concern, though, and my big concern is that the creation of increment, because this project in itself doesn't increase the increment itself. It's more of just an outright grant, because the property will be appreciating by tax by 3%, and this will probably not exceed that 3% that it would otherwise happen. As far as actual taxation, that in effect pays down or eliminates the indebtedness that we incur coming back as a grant from the Urban Renewal Agency. So what we're looking for, and I would hope in the future, is to make sure that we have actuarial review of how the increment is created, that it effectively funds and pays down the debt so as that we are not taking money away from the next generation. When we incur debt, much like building a city hall that has no increment, we just elongate the urban renewal district forever and forever. Therefore, no money comes in to pay for the services that we need and have, and we generate. So in the future, I would think it would be appropriate that we always identify how we create new increment over and above that actually pays down the debt that we incur.
Thank you. Are you volunteering for the next storefront grant working group?
I would be very happy to.
Okay, terrific. I think we'd be happy to have that. Thank you. Yes.
I think there's another way you can look at this particular project. I believe with the kinds of developments, and one recommended here, is that it makes the downtown corridor a more likely corridor to attract new development. And I think as you see our storefronts improve, you'll actually see more development desiring to come in. And although it's indirect, I believe it can be substantial in terms of the increment the new development coming in would do if in fact they perceive that this kind of renovation and restoration of the downtown area is going to continue. So I do think it has the potential of increasing the amount of taxable revenue that we would get based on new development in the future.
Being as we're short on time, would it be too soon to call for the motion?
I move to approve, excuse me, on agenda item number 5C, I move to approve.
Second.
5B.
Call for the vote?
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Aye.
Commissioner Roth?
Aye.
Commissioner Neely?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
And Commissioner Edgar?
Aye.
And Chair Walters?
Aye. Motion carries 10-0? Oh, wait.
9-0.
9-0, thank you. Is it 8?
Hey, Graham's gone, it's 8-0. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
We get buy Graham back, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That'll be okay.
Can't wait to see it. All right.
I want to buy
Yeah,
Graham back.
okay, all right.
Oh, Graham.
No, we need to bring Grant Peterson back. I want to go ahead and move to the next agenda item. It's agenda item 5C. This is the storefront improvement grant for 1001 Main Street.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Walters. This is the building at the corner of 10th and Main, referred to as This and That Warehouse, in an antique store. They're proposing a much smaller investment of approximately $4,000 to add a window to the rear of the building and a larger garage door type window on 10th Street. And so they are asking for a grant of $2,018. And again, the staff reviewed this. Our 4 staff reviewers, we came up with a score of 85%, and we're recommending approval of the grant.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Shaw,
I'll just make a motion.
make a motion.
Make a motion to approve 5C.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Aye.
Commissioner Roth?
Aye.
Commissioner Neely?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Edgar?
Aye.
Chair Walters?
Aye. Motion carries 9-0. And lastly, we have not last on the agenda, but last for our storefront grants, we have 1321 Main Street.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Walters. This one was a little more difficult for staff. This is the 76 gas station located on 99E and 13th. You can't miss it. It's blue and red. And they are actually proposing to improve and enlarge some of their windows and actually add a window to the building. So it will actually increase I think it will improve the building in terms of the aesthetics of it and in terms of the pedestrian atmosphere. We had one of our reviewers actually changed her score, and you can see that we came up with a score of 68%, but with her changes, it took the score to 70%, which means it passes. So, the staff was pretty split on this one. I think it's a pretty difficult call because there's obviously not a lot of history with a building like that, but it does improve the appearance. And in this case, the total cost of adding the windows and removing some of the brickwork to make the windows bigger was $16,431, and the grant they're asking for is $8,215.
Has anyone calculated what the remaining balance would be if all 3 of these projects are granted this evening?
Yeah, right now we have a balance of $100,000 in the program, and so with tonight we've spent so far, $42,000? And if this one was granted, that would mean we have $50,000 left to take us to the end of June, the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I would have a question about the signage. there's going to be larger windows, so they're going to have more signs in the windows covering?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. We've been hearing about signage, at
actually,
the
the
commission
city
meetings.
Yeah, the city cannot regulate signs that are inside a building, and I don't know what the intent of the owners are actually on
Okay.
that.
Thank you. I just wanted clarification before I got an email.
Anyone else? Commissioner Ecker?
Not everything is perfect, but if this creates a healthier business in downtown Oregon City that creates more jobs, I think that the owner is trying to walk the extra mile, and I would have to support somebody that's trying to invest into downtown Oregon City and to create jobs and really make a more vibrant economy.
Any other comments? Yes, Commissioner Neely?
I guess what concerns me most is the indication that we've had, looks like we prepared to have some maintenance failure on the building in terms of broken windows and so forth. I don't know if those windows have been replaced subsequently or if they're still broken.
I'm not aware.
Call for the motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Call for the vote?
No.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Mom?
Aye.
Commissioner Roth?
Aye.
Commissioner Neely?
No.
Commissioner Shaw?
No.
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner Edgar?
Aye.
And Chair Walters?
No. Motion carries 5-4. Okay, so I guess, can we take the minutes as a consent agenda item? Yes?
Yes, the motion includes both of them.
Anyone care to make a motion?
Approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Vote?
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Mom?
Aye.
Commissioner Roth?
Aye.
Commissioner Neely?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Edgar?
I abstain.
And Chair Walters?
Aye. Motion carries 8, yes, one abstention.
8-0 to 1.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, so I guess we have a few minutes to talk about the new agenda item. Would you like to start the discussion, Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, it's just basically a thought that crossed my mind with the fact that we're proposing tonight on the City Commission agenda to approve a resolution inviting Center Cal to bring the DDA forward to this Urban Renewal Commission, and I wonder if it's more appropriate for this commission to decide or to make a motion to invite Center Cal to bring that forward so that we can start looking at it. It's this commission that's ultimately going to make the decision, and it's this commission that it's going to be brought to, and the City Commission sits on this commission, so I'm not really sure why we would go towards just, I don't understand the need for the resolution from the City Commission if we're all sitting here right now, and we can, if we, as an entire Urban Renewal Commission, believe that it's time to bring the DDA forward, then I think we can do that as a commission tonight. Or request it.
If I might, I don't have a problem with that happening if a motion were put forward. One of the difficulties is we're having a lot of discussion about this project, and we haven't had any opportunity to have the developer put forward the development agreement proposal, and it is just a proposal. This is the body, of course, that could, should it entertain looking at the development agreement or not, that's its decision. Also, it can make modifications to the development agreement. It's one of the reasons I posed to our attorney, because I thought there were some very important questions asked by Ms. Kehoe, and they could be addressed in the process of approving the development agreement. Right now, there's been a lot of back and forth debate both in the community and among ourselves on this particular project, where we haven't had a chance to talk about the development agreement because it hasn't been brought forward. Now, if this body wishes to put forward the motion, I've got no problem with it at all. And if that could be done tonight, I think that would be excellent. But the point is, this project that could be looked at as a project that has been going on for probably the better part of 6 years, slow at the beginning, but advancing and so forth. And I think, if no other reason, as a basic courtesy to the developer, we give that developer the opportunity to bring it forward. If this body wants to do so tonight, I'd be pleased.
If we take that action tonight, would that save you any time in the next hearing?
It may. I mean, people can make comments at the next meeting, and that's fine. They can do that anyway.
I mean, I just wonder about the utility of it. I think the two bodies do operate independently.
Right.
And I guess...
But if somebody wants to put forward the motion,
if it doesn't, if it doesn't have, the value of sparing, I think Commissioner Smith felt that it was better placed in this body, but I don't think that taking an action tonight would necessarily affect whether it's presented in tonight's City Commission hearing.
Well, I think it would affect it. If, in fact, this body voted not to receive the development agreement, I don't know that there'd be any point in the City Commission requesting a development agreement come forward. So, yes, it would affect it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Any other comments?
Yes, thank you. I'm concerned that not all of the options have been put on top of the table, where we could legitimately and pragmatically wait out every single proposition. I've tried to do a little bit of homework. I've had an opportunity to spend some meaningful time, as an example, with Dan Fowler, trying to just open up my mind, think positively, creatively. And I am really concerned about one very big issue, and that is making this urban renewal district come to an end where projected revenue become real revenue. They actually go to the schools, go to everything. And that's really how to pay down, pay off, and end the urban renewal district. That doesn't mean we don't start another one. It doesn't mean that we don't do something important. But through the discussions and trying to think out all of the opportunities, I had posed a question to some. I said, why not put Cabela's right behind the Oregon City Shopping Center as an example, connected right to Main Street, where it has stronger and more positive effects upon Main Street businesses. Redo the Oregon City Shopping Center because it's already there with all of the parking and all of the infrastructure really in place, and really take much of what had been considered as a cove, which is having real struggles in trying to gain any type of financing or business plan associated that will make it marketable or developable, where we might even have greater square footage and total land mass. Not if there's the jobs could be developed on the rivers or on the Rossman landfill, the same number of jobs would be able to be developed literally in a redo of the Oregon City Shopping Center in a more creative manner. I question, as an example, leaving the Oregon City Shopping Center dangling out there as a dead duck. So when people drive into Oregon City, all they see is something negative. I'm from Kanema. I see people driving through Kanema, and it's terrible. I am embarrassed. I would not want to see our main entryway on Highway 99 looking equally devastated as a result of us redirecting everything away from not only downtown but the Oregon City Shopping Center. I also know that there are many businesses that are looking to try to create opportunities and they need space for family wage job, high-tech businesses, and there are those opportunities that exist on the rivers that may not exist anyplace else. I have been preaching and trying to get other people to understand we need jobs. We need family wage jobs. We need places where we can develop those types of jobs. I push very hard for the possible development south of Kanema in the Big Bowl, and no one in the previous administration really saw fit that land where there's a marina and some worn out motels and stuff like this that have railroad and industrial capabilities could be meaningful. To me, it was land desperately needed that could be added to our employment pool, lands that could be used for creating employment lands. So we need employment lands. If we don't have employment lands, we can't develop a sustainable community. And the model that we're on and have been on for a long time has been not sustainable. When we have 80% of the families buying new homes in and around Oregon City commuting 15 miles to 20 miles to find a job that pays them enough money to live here, that's crazy. It's unsustainable. I think we need to review this stuff. I think we've got a plan, and part of the plan is broken and has been broken for a long time. I think we need to stop, take a good look. I don't know that we're ready at this moment to say that in a weighted value world that we have all of the facts on top of the table to make intelligent decisions. If others agree, I will go along with the majority, but I just happen to be one that thinks we need to take a good, serious look at all of the opportunities are there and make sure that we're making the smartest choices.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Mung. Oh,
Thank you. I just want to point out that the brownfield that Parker's own, it's privately owned. Anybody with $15 million in their back pocket can go purchase and develop it how they wish. So I just want to point that out. Cabela's can go anywhere in Oregon. So whether they want to go behind the Oregon City Shopping Center or not is totally up to them. They're a private developer. We don't have to tell them where to develop. Thank you.
Commissioner Neely and then Commissioner Smith. Excuse me, Commissioner Nocita.
Well, no, Commissioner Neely, then Commissioner Nocita.
And Commissioner Smith.
Then Commissioner Smith. I think Commissioner Mum points out it is a private property. If this goes forward, I don't think that the Scottish State is going to look for any additional urban renewal support for any development that comes in. That area is going to be developed. That area will be developed with, I think, a kind of retail establishment that would be, even those that oppose the kind of retail establishment that's being put forward, what will come forward would be far, far worse. And this agency nor any other will be able to do anything about it because it'll be done according to the code and it'll go through the process. I am almost certain that the Oregon Department of Transportation would not approve the development of a Cabela's there at that particular site. The access to 205 is extremely poor. Without major investment, that's not going to happen. That's why I think probably Cabela's is interested in the 205 site, because it comes right off of the intersection directly into the project, and with the jug handle, people can enter it without seeing a signal. So I guess what you're doing, I think, is you're having the debate absent the developer that has put forward a specific project here. And so this has been 6 years in the process. I agree there are things that we've done in the Urban Renewal Agency that were mistakes, and I voted for some of those mistakes. But this property is going to be tremendous revenue with a project that will increase the tax increment in the area, and what would come in its place, because it's under private ownership, will be something that the Oregon City will not be proud of at all.
Commissioner Nishida.
I just had a quick question of Commissioner Mum. Commissioner, you mentioned that anybody with $15 million could buy the Rossman landfill.
Yeah, I don't have it on me, though.
No, what I'm asking is do you have knowledge that that is the purchase price of Rossman landfill?
That's one of the rumors I've heard.
Yeah, I think that's, we
So
don't.
you're not basing it
So
on...
I just wanted to throw out a number.
Commissioner Smith.
So my point is similar to the mayor's, which is, this commission is mixed to some degree on this topic. The city commission is mixed to some degree on this topic. The community is mixed to some degree on this topic. We're debating something that we have not seen in writing.
Yes.
So I'm going to make the motion so we can bring it forward, we can debate it. I move that the Urban Renewal Commission invite CenterCal formally invite CenterCal to bring the DDA for the rivers to the Urban Renewal Commission as soon as possible.
I will second.
Like a point of clarification.
Commissioner Nishida.
To Commissioner Smith, are you making a general motion, or are you making a motion that the resolution and its text that's in our packet be brought forward?
No, I am making a motion that we invite CenterCal to bring the DDA forward to the Urban Renewal Commission, and that the resolution doesn't need to happen.
Thank you.
Okay, call for the vote.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita.
Abstain.
Commissioner Baum.
Aye.
Commissioner Roth.
Abstain.
Commissioner Neely.
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw.
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson.
Aye.
Commissioner Edgar.
No.
And Chair Walters.
No. So motion passes with 5 ayes, 2 abstentions, and 2 nays. Okay. City Manager's Report, item 6.
We have one item for you, and Mr. Drentlaw is going to run something past you very quickly.
Very quickly.
I just want to let the commission know that we are working on trying to get some folks together for a Urban Renewal 101 work session.
Yay!
We're looking in March sometime, and I was sort of waiting to see what happened with the DDA, because one of the options is to use one of those March Urban Renewal meetings for a training session on urban renewal, or we could set aside a special date. So what I think I'll probably do is send you all emails with some suggested dates, and we can go from there.
Could we also chat about how we can kind of get Urban Renewal 101 to our public?
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, we'll put our thinking hats on that.
Okay, I think that'd be a great idea, because it's a great tool. So,
And as part of that, can you also take, I'd be glad to offer my property tax bill, and you can analyze it and help me understand what that urban renewal money is that's on my property tax and where it goes, and how is it assessed? Thank you.
We can have my property tax too.
That was a very good question. I caught that too, and I did ask David Wimmer. I don't know if he's quick tonight or not, but maybe we can discuss it later.
Yeah, well, we're in city
done.
commission time.
I think we're done for tonight. So if that's all, then I will close the adjourn. Thank you.
We probably won't convene the city commission meeting for 10 minutes.
I'm assuming the 814 first one is approved? Yes.